Good day and welcome to this series Church History Simplified. In our previous video, we talked about the Council of Constantinople, of which was held around 381 AD in Constantinople, that's the modern day Istanbul, Turkey. We also saw some of the key accomplishments. We saw the confirmation of the Nicene Creed, or the Nicene Creed was reaffirmed in this meeting and some minor adjustments were made. We also saw the establishment of the Holy Spirit's divinity, in that the council declared the Holy Spirit to be of the same substance. That is, when we talk about substance, with the same substance, we talk about homoousios or homoousios, of the same substance as the Father and the Son. That is to confirm the divinity of the Holy Spirit. We also saw Christological clarification. The council helped clarify the nature of Christ, affirming that he is fully human and fully divine. Lastly, we saw condemnation of heresies. Some heretical teachings like Arianism, Apollinarianism, and Macedonianism was condemned in this meeting. That and more we saw in the previous video. For today, we'll be focusing on another council or another meeting that was held in the early church, and that will be the Council of Chalcedon. The Council of Chalcedon. The Council of Chalcedon was a pivotal Christian ecumenical council held in 451 AD in Chalcedon. This was a city in the Eastern Roman Empire, and we can trace that city in our modern day Kadıköy, Istanbul, Turkey. That is where we can trace this city in our modern day. And of course, this meeting was convened by Emperor Marcian to address theological controversies, particularly the nature of Christ. So he was an emperor known as Marcian. This man was a top military officer who later on became an emperor. So he was the one who convened this meeting. And this meeting was particularly to discuss the nature of Christ. We saw in the Council of Constantinople that its major discourse was on the nature of the Holy Spirit, or to affirm the Holy Spirit's divinity to be one with the Father and the Son. Now, in this Council of Chalcedon, it is focused on confirming the nature of Christ. It is focused on confirming the nature of Christ. Now, let's see some of the key outcomes of this meeting or this council. First, we see Chalcedonian definition, and this council is popularly known as Chalcedonian definition. The council formulated a definition of the nature of Christ. So there was a definition or well-accepted definition of the nature of Christ in this council, or through this council or meeting that was held in Chalcedon. So that is why it is being called the Chalcedonian definition. And then it was affirmed that Christ is fully human, that he's a perfect man, and that he is also fully divine, that is a perfect God, so that he has these two natures. So he was one person, that's hypostasis. We'll talk about one person, but then he has two natures. So hypothesis, and then we have physis. That's one person that has two natures. That's the human nature and the divine nature. That's perfect man and perfect God. So that was the definition of Chalcedonian Council, if I would. So we also see that they concluded that it was a united nature, not to be confused or separate, but he was embodied in one person, that is Christ. He embodied these two natures, that's the divine nature as a perfect God and the human nature as the perfect man. And he was full, that full human, 100% human and 100% God. We also saw some condemnation of heresies like Eutychianism, that has to do with monotheism, that's a denial of Christ's human nature. So these heretical teachers denied Christ's human nature when we talk about Eutychianism and monotheism. So they denied Christ's human nature. So this heretical teaching was condemned in this Chalcedonian or meeting or council of Chalcedon. We also saw that heresies or heretical teachings like Nestorianism, that they believe that Christ has separate natures, or to put it right, that they separated Christ's human and divine nature. That means that Christ have this separate nature which is not effective when his human nature is at work. So they separated Christ's human and divine nature. That is to say, if we should follow this heretical teaching, that is to say that when Christ suffered on the way to the cross or on the cross, that means he put off his human nature and did not feel any pain at all and took on his divine nature, which will be wrong. So that is why it was condemned as a heretical teaching. We also see that in this council that they affirm the authority of the Nicene Creed. Of course, we talked about the Nicene Creed. So in this council also, the Nicene Creed was affirmed to be authoritative, to be a working creed in Christendom or in the Christian community, just as we also saw in that council of Constantinople. So there was also establishment of Bishop of Constantinople as the second most important. So in this council, the Bishop of Constantinople was established as the second most important. And concerning the attendance of this meeting, we saw that around 550 bishops, mostly of the Eastern Roman Empire, as well as some from Western Roman Empire. So we had 550 bishops who attended this meeting. And the emperor, of course, was the one who convened this meeting, the Emperor Marcion. We mentioned that earlier. So he played a significant role in convening and influencing the council, which was held in the imperial palace. So it was in the palace of this emperor that this meeting was held. So there were theological debates. The council engaged in intense debates on Christology, with some bishops advocating for a more monophysite, that's one nature, while others supported the diophysite, that's two nature view. So there was this kind of debate that went on in this meeting of Chalcedon. So finally we will see that the council issued 30 canons addressing various ecclesiastical and disciplinary matters such as clerical celibacy and episcopal election. So there were 30 canons or standard writings that was issued out or dished out during this council, and they were to address various ecclesiastical. When we talk about ecclesiastical, we have to talk about church gatherings. So some of the ecclesiastical and disciplinary matters such as clerical celibacy, so the clericals not getting married or involving themselves in any sexual activity. And then we saw episcopal election, that's the election of bishops. So when we talk about episcopal, we talk about bishopric. So episcopal elections, so those we saw that in that council they issued 30 canons, of course, to address these kind of matters. So Now we know that the council's decision led to controversy and schism, particularly with the oriented Orthodox churches, which rejected Chalcedonian definition and formed their own separate tradition. So remember that this meeting was about the nature of Christ, of him having two nature, that is fully human and fully divine, perfect man and perfect God in one, bearing this nature in one. So it was called the Chalcedonian definition, but at the end of this meeting, some didn't agree to this definition. Particularly, we have the Oriental Orthodox churches. So the Oriental Orthodox churches rejected this very definition of the nature of Christ. So they didn't agree. So also in recent decades, effort has been made to reconcile the Eastern Orthodox and the Oriental Orthodox so they can agree in just one thing, but man, these have not really been achieved. There was also some agreements that was signed around 1990 and 2017 in line with these agreements that has to do with the Chalcedonian definition. That's their definition and the nature of Christ, fully human and fully God or fully divine. So some agreement has been made in the recent years around 1990 and 2017. So that is pretty much about the Council of Chalcedon. We must understand that this council is particularly to address the nature of Christ. That was the major issue of debate in this Council of Chalcedon. The Council of Chalcedon's decision has significant implications for Christian theology, shaping the understanding of Christ's nature and development of Orthodox doctrine. However, its ruling also led to the controversy and schism, particularly with the Oriental Orthodox churches, which rejected the Chalcedonian definition. So at the end of the day, this Chalcedonian meeting or council gave a definition on the nature of Christ, but there is this fact that many do not accept this definition. So that's pretty much about the Council of Chalcedon. In our next video, we'll be talking about the Apostles' Creed, and we'll be dissecting the Apostles' Creed to know what it's about, how it came about, and we'll look at the contents of the Apostles' Creed. Thanks for always watching. See you in the next video.